Hey, it's Matthew David, the Minister of Allowing. And as you can see, I got some markages on my face. I'll tell you about that in just a minute. So what I'm going to talk about is what to do when a very serious attack comes upon you. That's what this is about. So on the 19th of March, and I know the 19th is a very strong Masonic number, it symbolizes death for the power structure. They use the number 19 to symbolize that. So on the 19th, I got ill, and it wasn't a normal, like a cold or something, happened. No, I ended up getting a viral infection that was very potent, where I couldn't stop coughing. I ended up getting what's called anug in my mouth. My whole entire mouth became infected with a bacterial infection, where I had canker sores on every teeth, every gum line of every tooth, and bleeding. And I also got, as you can see, the shingles for the first time in my life. I got them on my face, my neck, my chest, my stomach. This all happened in a period of about 6 hours. I went from the gym to feeling wonderful at 100% to waking up within about 6 hours, looking at my mouth and nearly fainting from what I saw. If you've never seen anug, commonly known as trench mouth, it was an awful, horrible, terrifying. It feels like glass in your mouth everywhere. You can't eat, you can't drink, you can't talk. I also had a strep infection, all at the same time. All of it at the same time. Now, I didn't know at the time, because I was so, caught up in this whatever happened, to, essentially navigate through to being well again, that my mom got sick on the same day. So I don't usually visit my mom too often. She lives an hour and a half away. So it wasn't as if we got each other sick. But she ended up getting the flu and pneumonia at the same time. And that's when I knew that this was an outright spiritual attack on me and my family. And it was designed to attack the female relationship in my life. And I see what the enemy was trying to do, and I know exactly what I did to fight this battle. I'm going to share with you those insights, what I did to fight this battle, because as bad as this looks, this is nothing. I was hideous. I don't ever want to remember that again. But I ended up having to go to the ER, getting 3 different antibiotics and antiviral. 2 days of that, I gave up on it. I stopped taking it all because I wanted to turn it over to God completely, with the exception of a nice antibacterial mouthwash that I use to keep my, to keep my breath smelling healthy. And I started praying into God. I ended up having to get a dental operation done to save my teeth. I had to go in twice, actually, to the dentist. And this all happened at lightning speed. This is like one day you're fine and the next day you're not. So what did I do? Well, I've overcome Lyme disease. I've regained perfect health from that. This was far worse than Lyme disease. I'll let you know that from my experience. This was very, very aggressive, very acute. I had a fever the whole time. All of it. So I prayed in every day, and I had people that I trust. I only reached out to them to pray to them. I never went public. I never told anybody, poor me, you know, please pray for me, everybody. I didn't want to put it out in public. I don't want to give honor to ignorance. But I reached out to trusted advisors, and we prayed into it a couple times a day. And I didn't see much improvement for a few days, 4 or 5 days. And then by day 6, it broke a bit. And that's where, you know, you kind of see what I look like after a couple days after that. So things are on the much better now. But what I used is the scripture, Exodus 14, 13, and 14. It says, "Fear not, stand still. See the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you this day. The Egyptians, whom you have seen this day, you shall see no more forever. Jehovah will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace." So we have an equation there. And what I did is I used the principle that Mary Baker Eddy uses in Christian Science, and also Phineas Parkhurst Quimby. And the principle is this, is that God is all, and none other sits on the throne beside God. Therefore, there is no other power, there is no other presence, there is no other mind. So what we're dealing with is we're dealing with the 5 senses getting entangled in a shadow belief of fiction. And now the 5 senses argue for their own witnessing of this ignorance. And they are the only witness of the ignorance. And if I witness for myself, then I bear no witness at all. So the 5 senses argue for the suffering. And they report to the body, to yourself, which when you're identified as a body, that's where the problem is. When you're identified as a body, then it has claim to hold on you. And so I started to see victory when I applied this equation of fearing not and standing still. That's recognition of the truth in the spite of the appearances. So even though things looked really bad, and even though they felt even worse, I found a safe space. And the only safe space where I felt any peace at all whatsoever, couldn't sleep, was in my shower. So I'd go in the shower with the warm water, and just the feeling of the water on my hands and my skin was enough to break the connection from all of the other pain and the burning and everything else, the headaches. And I couldn't eat, couldn't drink. So I kept putting my attention back on the truth. God is all, there is no other power. This is just a calling forth of a belief, a shadow of ignorance in consciousness that is calling for my attention. It wants me to give witness, to bear witness to the false claim. Now, what gives it false witness is when I assume that I am a physical being, that I have a body, that I have a life outside of God. Any smidget of that belief in you gives claim to the error and gives the jurisdiction for the suffering over you. So the battle was not with a physical disease or a series of infections. The battle was with identifying, who am I? Am I a mortal? Because if I'm a mortal, then I am subject to this. And this is very acute, very aggressive, and it may have taken my life. Or am I immortal? And I remember having a few epiphanies throughout the process, where instantly all the pain would go away. The swelling would instantly go down. And I would have a few moments of relief from all of it, because my consciousness would make this quantum shift.
Hello, it's Amanda with Alpha Upgrade and Allow Ministries. Are you stuck in your finances, health, or relationships? Feeling burnt out, tired, even defeated? Like you're older than you thought you'd be at this point in your life? International #1 best-selling author Matthew David Hurtado was bedridden and bankrupt in 2009 with Lyme disease. After gaining a full recovery and building multiple 7-figure businesses, Matthew teaches biblical secrets of the ages that work, regardless of age, social status, or belief in competition. During the Spiritual Millionaire Workshop 5.0 in May, Matthew will release his new book, Gold Rule, for attendees who attend this life-changing training. Why should you attend? You're being programmed by 15,000 messages a day if you live in the USA. You need a vibrational weapon, like self-entrainment technique, to produce an immediate shift in consciousness and sustain it, raising your frequency. Whether you can attend or not, head over to gold-rule.com and opt in to get a free pre-release digital copy of Gold Rule. Gold Rule is the answer to clarity, focus, and a proven action-based guide to getting everything you desire. Go to gold-rule.com and claim your pre-release copy now.
And in those times was when I recognized that I don't have a physical body. That is a belief. That is a belief that man made up eons ago. And some of these sages throughout history have been able to raise consciousness and have body parts go disappear in meditations. They've been able to allow others to witness that. You know, when I went out and met with Dennis Adams in Mount Shasta years ago, he told me he trained for 6 months walking back and forth in a room with a concave mirror on each side, and he trained his mind that there was no physicality. He knew this because he had PhDs in quantum physics, and he ended up being able to walk through a wall, and he could pass objects through one another, and he did it in a clinical setting with passing a car through an object and things that he did for other people to witness. But the reality is that that is the truth. And so as I kept pressing in, I started to gain momentum over this insidious claim of physical mortality on my immortal, spiritual, eternal, one with God life. Because the truth is, for you as well as myself, you never left heaven. You are God's image and likeness, spiritual being, never had a physical existence. And as my mentors who prayed for me kept saying, it's not a matter of if we win this battle, we've already won this battle. God already won the battle. It's just a matter of when you wake up from the dream. It's a dream of consciousness in suffering, through the 5 senses, through an illusion of separation. And so the principle here that we see in Exodus 14, 13, and 14 is, fear not and stand still. So you get quiet and you stay quiet about the problem. You only want to reach out when you have a problem to someone capable of helping you resolve that problem. You don't want to tell the world about your problem and reactivate that vibration and keep that thing as a part of your held reality. You want to deny that or go quiet about it and deal with it on the spiritual realm where the action is taking place. Step number 2 is you want to see the salvation of the Lord. So you believe and you declare in your victory, knowing that victory was already given. God already won this battle. It's not your fight. God is your life. And whatever is trying to make claim on you, if you just get you out of the way, then it's trying to make claim on God, and that will be a non-position in no time. And so that's how I started to gain real traction. I had to go back to the dentist, and I told him I told the doctor and the dentist I quit taking their antibiotics. They had side effects. I did not like the side effects. They were pretty bad side effects. Very strong antibiotics. So I quit after a couple days. I said, no, I'm not going to go this route. I'm gonna give this to God. Now, I'm not giving you medical advice. So if you're listening to this and you're going through a trial, the purpose here is I'm telling you how I handled the situation. I am not telling you not to take your prescriptions, because this is between you and you. You and your doctor have that relationship. I made a decision based on who I was going to serve. I was going to serve my spiritual nature, not my flesh. And so as I dug into that, I started to gain a lot of traction, and They told me it would take 3 to 4 weeks to clear up this mouth infection. And you can see it looks pretty good in there. It doesn't feel completely 100% yet, but it will, because God has already won the battle. So that's the attitude, is to first remember that fear is the fountain of disease. Mary Baker Eddy describes that in her book, Science and Health, with Keys to the Scripture. Fear is the fountain of disease, and the belief of the disease is the disease. Because your so-called material body is really a part of a mortal mind. It's part of a mind that believes in its own flesh, believes in its own existence. And what it is, it's the atom dream of consciousness. It's the dust of the earth that's swept up in ignorance and puffed itself up with all sorts of knowledge. But all this knowledge is it's all ignorance that leads to suffering. So instead of trying to attack one level of ignorance with another level of ignorance, as in throw a material solution at a material problem, I went up to the cause, because God is the only cause of anything that could ever exist, because God's the only principle of action in the entire created galaxy, whatever universe. Because in every space, and 99.99997% empty space is what physical matter is God's, what you call the source energy. It's God. I call it God. If you don't like that, just get over it. I call it God because I love God. You can call it whatever you want. Infinite intelligence, infinite beingness, source. That is the only principle of action at any point in the universe. And so what happens is, through ignorance, because human minds mingle, they talk in secret, and then it comes to pass, because environment's like our looking glass. And so we have these conversations with other minds, even though we may not be directly talking about it. We could be around somebody who has held an illness in their consciousness, and then, lo and behold, we start demonstrating the same phenomena in our mind, which appears to us as our body, in a human mind. And then we start to look for reasons. Now, that's where we get crossways. When you start to look for reasons, you're getting yourself in a lot of trouble. Reasoning is the son of the guilty mind. That's what it means. Etymology, parse it out. Son of the guilty mind. So if you start from a position of being guilty, then you can only remain guilty. So you want to declare innocence. I am God's heir. I am a spiritual, eternal, living manifestation of the one mind, the one power, and the one presence, and that power and presence and mind is good. Outside of that exists no other. What is this shadow that is calling for my attention? It is a false belief of human reasoning that is attached to my 5 senses. And my 5 senses declare that they have life, and that matter has life, and it has the ability to give life and death. And that is breaking the commandment of put no other gods before me and no graven images. Because now we're setting up false idols all over the place, because we're thinking thoughts that are not God's thoughts. We're holding evil and beholding it as some sort of goodness. So it's really a perversion to become fascinated by your illness and to become entrenched with your illness. You want to rise in rebellion, and you want to declare your innocence as a child of the Most High, incapable of suffering anything of the flesh, because God never created a human mortal. And since God never created a human mortal, you can't exist in so-called human mortality with all of its sickness, sin, disease, death, suffering, and poverty. And as you wage this war of the spirit versus the flesh, your victory is guaranteed. It has been since the beginning. And you will go through the trial, because that's just the way it's always been. So knowing how to battle is one thing. Having the courage to do it is another thing. And remembering that God is all and that love is the only power.
Hello, I'm Julie with Allow Ministries on behalf of Matthew David Hurtado. Are you ready to end self-sabotage, procrastination, and distraction? Clarity, certainty, and a proven plan of action is what it takes to get anything you want in life. Training is the answer. Matthew David Hurtado's Spiritual Millionaire Workshop is the one-step solution that finally puts you in control of your destiny. What Matthew discovered about building a 7-figure business and perfect well-being when he was bedridden and bankrupt with Lyme disease is that mentorship is success without the wait. It works. At allowuniversity.com, you'll discover how to walk in victory. Learn how to prosper in every area with unstoppable daily habits and a step-by-step training to build your dream business immediately following the event, a success training for a lifetime of achievement. Walk in financial increase, living a life you love. Go to allowuniversity.com and say yes to your destiny.
And subduing your fear and refusing to worship the symptoms of your disease by obsessing about them, fearing about them, instead being absent from the body, meaning having no body. You recognize that the body is just a pillared sculpture of light and energy. It's just information and energy decoded through a human reasoning, erring human mind that is filled with ignorance. And so I take no report from the 5 senses as truth. I report only what is the truth that God knows to be true, that goodness is eternal, goodness is real, and love is the only source of anything that is at the cause level of my life. And then what you see happening is you see the breaking away of the ignorance, the falling away of the illusion. And I want to tell you guys, this principle of tithing has been the capstone for everything. And I just want to remind you that I've been through something like this when I had Lyme disease and I was bedridden for nearly 2 years. And I had to figure this stuff out with consciousness throughout that process. That was my first awakening to this type of knowledge. And at the time when I did not tithe, I had no resources, no means. I had no expectation for God to deliver me financially. I had nothing to save me on a rainy day. And that's why we lost everything during that process. But I want to tell you what happened this time. Is my attack did happen on my finances too. For the first 3 to 4 days of this illness, my product sales, the ministry donations, the workshops, everything that I offer, everything that's been available was grinding down and halting, okay? Because I was being attacked on all levels. This is an attack in spirit. This is not a physical attack. This is an attack to see how strong your faith is. And that's what happened to me. Like, who am I placing my faith in? And so I came to the complete acceptance that no matter what happened, I'm okay with God. I love you, God. After about 4 days of this, whether I die, I don't care, because I love you, God. If I'm supposed to die, then I'll die, because I know I'm alive, eternal in you, God. I don't need this physical meat sack. It never brought me an ounce of joy, because joy exists in God's presence, always and eternal. And once you become a body, you set yourself up with all the limitations on the earth that could ever exist, including attaching yourself to every disease, every idea, every false claim that could come against matter is now part of your reality. So I said, God, if you want to take this body away, then do it, because I know I'm going to be in your joy no matter what. And I came to the okayness of that. And I said, God, if you don't want to give me prosperity anymore, then that's okay too, because at the end of the day, you're the only power. I deny and detest any other power that could ever come against me, because there is no other power. I will not believe in that. I say no to that. And once I did that, the floodgates opened. The prosperity began pouring in and pouring in. And after 16 years, this is what I want to tell you. I was in bed mostly the whole entire time during this process. After 16 years, God did not fail still. God has been unfailing. I have tithed for 16 years. I always stretch it to include my faith, seed that goes with my tithe, and I give far above the 10%. Because God is everything to me. And outside of God, I know there is nothing. There is no other value in anything. God, once again, came through and did not fail. God cleared up the majority of my face, took down my swelling. My face was puffed up like crazy, took my fever away, took away all the open sores and wounds and everything that was going on in my mouth. God took that away. God took away the strep. God took away all of this. Because God wants one thing, wants complete trust, complete surrender, and complete acknowledgement that God is all in all. And then what happens is God will lift that veil and set you up high for your faith. God will prosper you and raise you up. And that I am so grateful for. And that's why I'm finally making a video and I'm finally coming out, because God did it again. God did it again for me, and he'll do it for you. God is no respecter of persons. You will be challenged and you will go to battle. This battle was harder than Lyme disease. This battle was the worst I've ever endured so far. And I kid you not, I had moments in the first 48 hours, 72 hours, I wasn't sure I was going to be here. It was not easy. And it's not always going to be easy. You're going to have to just keep leaning on a principle and not on a report that is temporal. See, the five senses are always temporal. So any report that comes from them is always to be taken with a grain of salt. You could look like you're losing your head, but that's your five senses. You cannot lose anything that God gave you. If God gave you life, then nothing can take it away. Nothing on this planet has any power to do anything outside of God's will. So you stay in that understanding and you stay in that trust, and you start speaking victory and put together a council of believers around you and go to war in that capacity and take your battle to the spirit where the real battle is being done. And victory will be demonstrated because the battle is already won. And so I got another lesson in faith. I got to stretch, I got to learn, and it was not easy. But the benefit of going through it is once again seeing God's hand, unfailing hand of God. God is unfailing. There is nothing impossible to God. Just want you to believe in that. Love you and take care.
I'm Chris with Complete Essentials. Do you want to feel your best every day? Not sure what vitamins or supplements to use? Minerals are the currency of life. Minerals are the most important fuel our bodies require. Without minerals, vitamins cannot work. Shockingly, most people are deficient because our food supply lacks what we need. Discover the fuel your body needs to get moving again and reap the life-changing benefits. Our free Mineral Secrets course, Monotomia, is the answer. Health means everything, so go to monotomia.com and get the info now.